And I want to show you a little bit of what a conservation easement looks like, because this is still kind of a strange term, I think, to use for preservation. But this is, it's a deed that gets recorded in the courthouse, and it's permanently attached to the property deed. And so as you can see here, but right after it describes the property, so what the property is, what this document is doing, which is granting certain rights to the Land Conservancy, it describes what the conservation values are of that property, what we're trying to protect in particular. Because the thing is, every property that we protect has to have specific public benefit to doing so. And the reason for that is a longer topic I'd like to get into some other webinar, but conservation easements, when they are donated, the value of that conservation easement is eligible for an income tax deduction because we are a qualified conservation organization. So the IRS has determined there are public benefits to land preservation, and they've identified certain things that can meet certain criteria that you have to meet to show that there's public benefit. So these categories are actually developed are written into the IRS code. So things like wildlife habitat, natural ecosystems, important farmland, scenic views that can be enjoyed by the public, historic resources, and then of course recreation resources. So the Land Conservancy typically does the top three, I'd say there. We do have some properties that were preserved for historic resources and historic landscapes, and we have very infrequently got into preserving land for recreational purposes, but we do actually have some conservation easements that have that as one of their public benefits. So the conservation easement then starts getting into how to protect that property and those resources that we specified before. So again, like I said, almost every conservation easement in some way will prohibit or limit subdivision. It often, these days, will identify a part of the property where any new building can be constructed. So we have what's called either a building expansion area or a minimal protection area. We want to cluster any new development, typically around the existing farmstead or whatever structures there that currently exist. We often include a limit to total impervious areas, so how much space can be in roofs, how long access drives can be, and then again, like I said, limiting things like oil and gas extraction, certain activities that would be harmful to the open space features of the property. So this property here would be kind of a typical, I would say also maybe ideal land conservancy project because it has like a mix of features that we would appreciate. So as you can see, it has a number of agricultural fields. It has quite a bit of forest land. There's a couple tributaries running through it. So with this example, we might identify, there's on the northern side is the house and there's a barn. We would draw, we have actually a survey done around that area and call that the building area, so that all future buildings that would be constructed would have to be somewhere in that cluster. We also might call those stream corridors a high protection area. So because those are more important to protect, we would actually have a buffer around them that would really severely limit any activities within those. We might say absolutely no live tree cutting in that 100-foot buffer from those tributaries. And actually, no impervious surfaces, but perhaps some limited amount of trails would be allowed. And then the majority of the property would be kind of the standard protection area, which is where we would allow typical agricultural practices and forestry practices, and maybe one or two smaller structures, a shed or a run-in shed if there was pasture land or something. So the majority of the property would still be open space, but also would have your kind of standard open space uses that would still make it, a property that someone would want to live on and buy in the future, not have an issue with being too restrictive.